What's up guys, FlamingVictini here, and I am back. I got a little busy in the school year and I wanted to focus on my tournaments, but now that I've got more free time, I'm really excited to be uploading again, and I just wanted to go over some of the recent tournament games I've played. So jumping right into it, this is my top 16 Smogon Tour series against Empo. We're going to be playing black and white first. I'm going to be on the near side, he's going to be on the far side. I'm going to be using a team that was given to me by Blunder. It's got Specs, Latios, Scarf, Superpower, No Stonehenge, Slanderous T, Spikes, Ferrothorn. The Keytran is really interesting. That's the set I wanted to build and I wanted to use. It's Air Balloon, Will-O-Wisp, Protect, Magma Storm, Earth Power, a really interesting breaker, works really well. I've got a T-Tar, Rocks, Choppleberry, Crunch Pursuit, Fire Blast, good old stuff. And I've got a Sub-CM Keldeo, which tends to be quite strong versus Rain, which is what my opponent is using. But Empo does have that Jellicent, and Jellicent does completely wall Sub-CM Keldeo. So that's going to be something I got to worry about. I really want to get some status or something of the sorts on that Jellicent. Even if the Jellicent is taunt, I might be able to put some pressure onto it with the Keldeo. If it's not taunt Jellicent, which would be really weird, then Keldeo might actually be able to 1v1 it if the Jellicent is status or something of the sorts. Anyway, looking at his team, this definitely does look like a dangerous matchup. This team is a little weird. I wouldn't really say it's the most solid thing ever, but it kind of works and it looks a little dangerous. That Moltres in particular is really scaring me because if that's a sub Moltres, my Heatran won't be able to touch it because my Heatran's not even that fast, and if Moltres is faster, then it'll be especially bad. But even if it isn't, I don't have Toxic on my Tran. Now it's true he doesn't know that, so that's why I'm going to try to bank off of that fact that he doesn't know I lack Toxic on my Tran, at least in the early game. And I know my biggest threat to his team is my Specs Latios, because his Specs Latios switch in is Bronzong. Once that's weakened, he's gone. And my Latios would love to operate in his Rain, because I don't want to be taking sand damage all the time, and I want to have that Rain boosted Surf to smack that Zong really hard and quicken how quickly I can kill that Zong. I want to knock it down as soon as I can. So yeah, that's going to be the goal. I definitely need to be careful of that Exegil as well. Exegil is a threat. I just need to play my Ferrothorn well and my Landorus well. I don't even need to break a potential Air Balloon or worry about Shuckleberry since I have Superpower on my Lando. I just gotta be careful that the Exegil doesn't get out of hand with Sand Rush and in Swords Dance. And that Thundurus could be Double Dance, but I don't really know for sure. It's hard to predict Thundurus sets right away. But it could be Scarf, but I think he's gonna be Scarf Politoed on a team like this. And he will probably watch Thundurus for breaking purposes. Now, onto the leads. I'm going to lead off with my Latios again because it is my biggest threat to his team, and any switches I can force to get damage on it is great. He does lead off with his Bronzong, so I'm just going to go straight to my Heatran, as he's just going to set his Rocks. The reason I don't go like Ferrothorn or something like that is because Spikes don't really do a lot to his team. It only really touches Politoed and Jellicent, and Exegil if it's not Air Balloon, but those aren't really my biggest concerns at this moment. And I want to go to my Heatran because my Heatran can get off some good damage, might be able to get off a status depending on what he wants to do, and since I have Protect and Magma Storm, I can definitely do some scouting as well. So I do go to my Heatran. He's going to go to Politoed and set up the Rain for me, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to go for the Magma Storm. I do hit right here, which is really nice because I'm fairly sure this Politoed is choice locked. So I can go for a Protect right here, force him to stay in, show me what move he's locked into, and then he won't be able to double switch because of the Magma Storm, which is really, really nice for me. He shows Hydro Pump right here, so I'm just going to go Ferrothorn. He misses the Hydro Pump, not too big. It would have done like, I think 25-30ish%, but that's not too huge of damage, not too hard to recover since I do have Leech Seed and Protect. He's going to switch out to his Moltres right here, and I predict this. I go straight to my Latios. I know that I can't afford to give this Moltres a ton of free turns, and I really want to pressure it right away. Plus, I don't expect him to Hydro Pump a Ferrothorn this early in the game, and even if it does, Latios isn't the worst thing to come in on that Hydro Pump. I go straight for a Surf, does a solid 46, net 40% damage on that Zong after lefties, but that's looking really good. He does pull a double into his Politoed, so it doesn't get any recovery with that Zong. I go into my Ferrothorn because if he does want to Gyro Ball, I do get some Iron Barbs and I can still set up Spike. And Ferrothorn is my safest switch into that Zong. Plus I don't want to go Heatran while Rain is up, and I don't want to lose my Balloon and take Rocks on the switch as well. So Ferrothorn is my switch. He doubles to Politoed, maybe expecting the Heatran. Not really sure, but he can't really stay in right here. And knowing this, I'm going to just pull another double right back out to Latios. I really don't want to give this Moltres any free turns. And I get that correct, so the Moltres comes in. I'm just going to drop a Draco Meteor right here because regardless of whether Zong comes in or not, I'm going to get a 2 KO on this Bronzong with Draco Meteor. And that's really, if he doesn't really have a Draco switch, and like Excadrill is offensive, it can't take a Specs Draco plus another Draco. I'm gonna go Keldeo right here because Keldeo is not really touched by anything Bronzong can do that's like a big worry, other than him going for a Toxic, which I highly doubt because I have 2 Steels on my team, which I've been bringing in on Zong every time. And I felt like he wanted to try to get some initiative with his Moltres because I've been ahead of him the whole time with my Latios, just pounding damage on his team, and the only thing he's been getting out of it was rocks. Now imagine if I led with my Heatran against this Bronzong, it would have been really, really great because I'd have the same position without rocks and he just become getting completely destroyed. But that's just the lead matchup. If I predicted the Zong was one thing I was worried about, so I was thinking of leading Tyranitar, even though Tyranitar doesn't really immediately threaten out Zong. Or I wasn't really thinking of leading Heatran though, but if I did lead Heatran, that would have been really great for me. Anyway, so that's why I go to Keldeo, because I want to catch the Moltres switch if he does go to it, and if he doesn't go to it, Keldeo is still fine. Because I do get my cold Keldeo in on this Moltres, I am going to go straight to my T-Tar. T-Tar is not worried by much that Moltres can do unless Moltres is like a defensive set any Will-O-Wisps, and the Jellicent switch is extremely obvious, so I really want to catch that Jellicent on the switch, don't want to give it a free Will-O-Wisp on my team. He does go straight to his Excadrill. I just go straight for the Crunch. I don't want to mess around with pursuing and getting Will-O-Wisp. And he doesn't really have a solid Crunch answer. As you see, he does go to Excadrill right there. Steel does resist Dark and Black and White, so that's why it's not going to do a ton. But I do break his Air Balloon. And the damage I get on it is kind of nice, because this means I think with a Fire Blast plus Spike, I'll be able to knock him out. And it's just also nice to know that I don't necessarily have to click Super Power versus the Excadrill. And just good damage on it in general is really nice to have. So he's going to switch out his Drill. Actually, one other thing I want to show there is that the Excadrill is Mold Breaker. I'd have to go back to show you the message on the screen, but the Excadrill did show Mold Breaker. Now I actually didn't notice this right away. I kind of just assumed it would be Sand Rush because that's standard on Rain. But he is Mold Breaker Excadrill, so that's another thing to keep in mind. I don't necessarily have to worry about a Sand Rush endgame sweeping me. Even though I have Keldeo, a Ferrothorn, Lando, I might be worried in the endgame about giving him a free SD, but now that I know he's not Sand Rush, I am more free to play around that Drill. So I'm going to go into my Ferrothorn. It's a solid switch into the Drill. He doubles to his Politoed. I'm not really sure what he's trying to get from the stubble, because if I just went to my Lando, I just U-turn and get chip damage on, or I'd get momentum. So I'm not really sure what he accomplished by this. But I do get Ferrothorn in on the Politoed. I've been doubling every single time, so I think this time I just set up a Spike, as I do indeed just set up a Spike, and he goes Moltres. Here I click Protect, because if he subs, he's clicking Sub, and there's not much I can do about that, and if he goes for attack, I think he's going to be offensive. He does go for the Hurricane. I'm going to switch into my Heatran, because Heatran's a decent buffer to Hurricane. Even though I can't really do much damage, he doesn't necessarily want to stay in, because he doesn't know I have Toxic. Now this here I think is maybe one of my misplays in this game. Latios definitely is key to winning this game, and that's why I didn't want to go to Latios and take damage. I didn't want him to like Agility and then HP Ice me and have to take all the damage. I didn't want to have to even take a Thunderbolt or an HP Ice on the switch or anything like that. But Latios, I felt like Heatran was not going to help me a lot in this game. And that's true, but it still would have been a good buffer switch into Moltres. And we're going to see later on that Moltres is going to put in some more damage because I let my Heatran go for... I basically get nothing out of this Heatran other than a safe switch into Latios. And if I'm going to play this way with my Latios, I miss the Will-O-Wisp. It matters a tiny bit, but not a whole lot. Because I think I do crit this with a U-turn later. But anyway, I do go to my Latios. I'm going to get my free kill right here. I don't know what this Thunder set is. It could theoretically be choice locked in some way because he only showed 2 T-Bolts, but it's definitely not a boosting item like Life Orb or even Wise Glasses. So I just go for the Draco Meteor, take out the Song. He takes advantage of the fact that I am -2 special attack and locked into Draco to go to Moltres. And this is the big turn. U-turning on the T-Tar, I didn't really have another switch, but he catches me with the U-turn, and this is really, really good for Empo, because that damage on T-Tar is quite important. We'll see in the endgame that it matters a lot versus his Jellicent, because his Jellicent is actually running a ton of speed. Like, I've got a lot of speed on this T-Tar. He's faster than me, I'll just tell you right now. I don't know this, but I still need my T-Tar around. T-Tar also helps with Politoed not locked into a water move. and it's really nice to have around in general, especially for this Moltres as well. I want to be able to take Hurricanes in the late game, and so that's really important. And now that Cheetar is also low, he's got his Thundersin, I really need to focus on doing a lot of damage with my Latios. Now I'm going to go to my Landorus right here. Now the way he brought in the Thundurus on the Heatran, it was pretty obvious he did have a fighting move, and the way he brought it in on Cheetar, I felt he'd go for that again. I do have a Chople, but I don't want to take it, especially since I'm really weak. So I'm just going to go to my Lando. You would say that there's no reason not to Stone Edge right here, but I don't have Stone Edge, so I just go for a U-turn, get a crit. That's not going to be too huge, kind of makes up for the Will-O-Wisp miss, honestly, because if I hit that Will-O-Wisp, he would be lower, I think. I think he would be lower, yeah, because he'd be taking lots of damage. Loses 1/8 of your health from Wisp every turn. And when I go to Keldeo on the HP Ice right there, I didn't feel he was T-bolting. I thought he might actually Superpower twice. But Keldeo wasn't the most important mon to me right now because I don't really need his health for Drill or anything, and it's completely walled by Jellicent anyway. Now right here I could have pulled a more aggressive double into T-Tar, but I do go to Ferrothorn as kind of a middle ground, because if he does stay in with Thund and predicts the T-Tar double, then at least Ferrothorn is not going to get completely destroyed, and I'm not going to get completely wrecked. But yeah, I do go for a Power Whip right here, expecting him to maybe taunt, but he does just switch out. If he Wisp too, that would have been good for him, so I don't really know if Power Whip was my best play, but Jellicent's annoying, definitely annoying to switch into. Now I go for Protect right here, he goes for Hurricane in the sand. So I'm just going to go for Leech Seed. He's being worn down by Leech and Sand a lot. Now, Protect is extremely obvious right here. And going Thund, pretty obvious option, but I really just can't risk him Hurricaning again. If I did Leech Seed though, it would have been really, really great for me. Would have gotten more recovery, would have gotten more damage on this Thund. And it would have been nice, but yeah, he's just going to go for the Superpower on my Protect. And right here, I'm going to switch out. I'm going to go into my Keldeo again because I don't expect him to Thunderbolt, as he does just U-turn interestingly enough, so he gets to keep his Thund around and go to his Jellicent. Jellicent is taking some damage from the Spike, and the Sandstorm is preventing the lefties, so that's actually pretty nice for me right here. This Jellicent is taking damage. Now this here is probably another mistake. I do think this is definitely a mistake. Earlier I was conserving my Latios, but now instead I decided to switch it into the Jellicent. I thought he would Wisp, honestly, and even if he did Wisp, that still would have been really bad for me, because you lose a lot of health from Wisp, and from the Sand, and from two turns of Sand and a turn of Wisp, I would have lost 3/8 of my health, and I think I would have had like one more switch into or one more Draco, and that would have been really bad. Instead, what happens is even worse. He gets a crit Scald, and the crit Scald does more damage than what 2 turns of Wisp would have done. And now, because of that, after I drop the Draco, I can't switch back in. I'll die to Rocks, and that's really, really bad for me, because he just sacks off his Stun to this last Draco. I can't really do much, even if I double, because I can't really punish another switch too strongly. And so yeah, my Latios has to be given up right here, which really sucks. I would have been great to get one more extra kill with this Latios. We'll see though that the late game and Jellicent would have been quite dangerous anyway. So I definitely should have been either very full out preserving with my Latios, or I should have been more preserving of my T-Tar by preserving my Heatran. Now right here I make the only play I really have is to Fire Blast that Drill. If I get that wrong, I'm just going to get completely screwed by the Drill. And I had forgotten that this was not Sandrush, not Moldbreaker. Sorry, that it was Moldbreaker, not Sandrush, so I was especially concerned about it. But I felt he would go to it anyway, because especially because he doesn't want Rocks up, and Drill kind of ensures that Rocks are not going to stay up. So yeah, I do remove the Drill with the Fire Blast. Politoed's going to come in. I'm just going to switch up to my Ferrothorn, no reason not to. He's going to go for Pump, he's going to hit it. Then he's going to go for another Pump on my Leech Seed and hit that. So my Ferrothorn is being weakened. He just went, I mean, this Pump play was okay. He gets like a tiny bit of net damage, not going to really be too big. He just wants to try to get a free switch on my Leech, but another Pump is extremely obvious here, right? Sorry, a switch right here is extremely obvious, so I'm not going to go for a Protect. I'm going to Leech Seed, and I miss. This Leech Seed miss is quite annoying because I would have recovered a decent amount of health. With the Protect, yeah, I would have recovered a good amount of health, and I at least would have been able to play off of a Hurricane miss by going T-Tar in the situation that my Ferrothorn wouldn't be preservable for the Moltres. With that Leech Seed miss, I'm just completely screwed by this Molt. I don't even have the option of throwing up Rocks in an endgame situation and it being completely knocked out because it's at 59. I go for Protect just to see when he wants to click, get more lefties, and choose what I want to do, get more time, but I really can't do anything but sack Ferrothorn, so I just do that right there. I go to my Lando. I could have gone to my Lando and tried to bluff the Stone Edge and click EQ. That might have been... Yeah, I mean, that might have been a play, but at this point, I need my Keldeo, because now my Keldeo is the only thing that can legitimately kill this Moltres. Unless I manage to get up rocks with T-Tar, which I don't think so, because I need my T-Tar for the Jellicent. So I'm going to go to Keldeo. I'm going to make a... Like, if I went to T-Tar right here, I think maybe... I mean, if I went to T-Tar and I was faster, I think then he would suddenly give me a chance to win. So that's why I thought he may not go hard Jellicent. He may want to go Jellicent. He may want to like let Moltres go, then recover with Jellicent and focus on winning with Jellicent. But he is actually really fast Jellicent. What I'm going to do right here, since rain is up, not sand, I'm going to try to sub Calm Mind and try to get a free switch with T-Tar. He has no reason really to click Taunt versus my Keldeo. But I figured that once I show sub and potentially CM, he's going to do it anyway. And I can try to get a free switch with my T-Tar. I do go T-Tar right here. He taunts. And right here, I'm just hoping that I can remove the Jellicent. I go straight for the Crunch, not the Pursuit right here. He stays in, and he's faster, and he scalds me. That crit did not matter because I was so low. But yeah, him being really fast Jellicent. Like, I have like 120 speed or something on his T-Tar. So and T-Tar is higher base speed by 1 than Jellicent, admittedly. But Jellicent has to be running a ton of speed on T-Tar, and Jellicent really wants its bulk. But he's running the fast Jellicent, so there's not much I can do, and I just lose to this Jellicent. So, yeah, I don't get a crit on the Jellicent. That was like my last hope crit, and then Politoed, like, somehow not being able to kill or something really weird happening, but I don't get anything. So, yeah, this game is lost. And, yeah, that's the black and white game, so I'll be right back with the SM game, Game 2. Alright, guys, so for Game 2, we're going to be playing SM. Empo is using a very interesting Zard-Y stall team. He's got Pursuit Muck, Dugtrio, Zard-Y core. He's got a Toxapex, Skarmory, and Decidueye as the rest of his defensive backbone. Decidueye, quite an interesting choice. I wasn't completely sure why it was there. I reckoned it might be Double Defog, which could be problematic because my Landorus is Gravity. Gravity, HP, Ice, EQ, designed to set up rocks with E-Plate, so it's designed to set up rocks versus standardish stall builds. And also like threaten stuff like Celesteela and things like that. But Decidueye does completely wall my Landorus set, so that's going to be a worry. That's going to be a problem. And my Zard-Y switch-ins is Tyranitar. Now I'm considering the fact that he has Dugtrio, I highly doubt that the Tyranitar is running Focus Blast. I figure it's more likely to be running HP Ice or a move like a Wisp or Toxic or something of the sorts. So I do expect that my T-Tar can switch into Zard-Y. But I definitely don't want to take a Fire Blast plus a Solar Beam, and I can't switch in, so basically I can't afford to give this Zard-Y a free Mega plus Fire Blast, because I can't even switch in T-Tar on the Mega Fire Blast, because then I'll be in range of Solar Beam, which will just kill me, and I'm basically going to be forced to sack him onto Zard, because as you can see, Zard is quite threatening, outruns and knocks out Lele if it's timid, Fire Blast. Keldeo can't OHKO it, Lando can't touch it because it's slower and it has to have gravity up. Anyway, Magearna can't kill it, Ferrothorn can't kill it. Like, Zard is definitely the biggest threat to my team. Now, I have a lot of threats to his team as well. My Magearna is Shift Gear, Calm Mind, Bolt Beam with Gigavolt Havoc. Shoutouts to TDK for this set. It's really nice set. And it's quite dangerous to Empo's team. It can break past, it can basically beat everything. It can, even from straight from the get-go, it could theoretically just completely destroy his team if I just get off. Yeah, like, his Skarmory might be Whirlwind, and so if I don't get Rocks up, which is possible, then he might be able to Whirlwind me once, and then know that he has to play around Shift Gear plus Calm Mind. But especially if I click time my Z move well, then my Magearna can definitely just completely roll through Empo's team. And yeah, this Magearna is definitely the really big threat versus his team, and I want to focus on trying to win with Magearna. But really right now, I need to focus on that Zard, because if I don't remove that Zard, then I don't expect to get the free room I need to be able to win with Magearna, because I can't just plan to just like, oh, leave with Magearna and just completely 6-star. It's just not going to work like that. So I am going to lead with my Tyranitar, hoping that he leads with this Charizard, and he does indeed lead with this Charizard. I go straight for the Pursuit. I'm not messing around with this thing, and it just completely knocks it out, which is perfect. I am Choice Band Tyranitar, of course, otherwise that wouldn't have KO'd. But we actually see later that his Toxapex was Eject Button, so if I clicked anything other than Pursuit thinking I'd be safe, then I just get completely screwed, because he'd go to Pex, Eject Button would activate, his Doug would come in, and his Doug would do this, which is reveal the Z Ground, Tech Rage, and just completely knock out my Tyranitar. So this is actually a perfect trade for me, though I'm very happy losing my T-Tar for the Zard. I don't even care for removing the Decidueye, I just want that Zard, because that Zard is a threat. I'm going to go to my Lando, because Doug really can't do much to Lando. Set up the rocks as Skarmory comes in, I'm going to click Gravity as the Skarm defogs, and I'm just going to throw up those rocks again as he goes to Decidueye. And so yeah, him going to Decidueye definitely makes me think that this is a defog Decidueye. I don't really want to switch into anything other than Ferrothorn on this. Like, the main way I want to beat this is with Tapu Lele or Magearna. I also want to figure out if he's Fizdef or Spadef, but I am going to go to my Ferrothorn. I'm going to set up a Spike as he Spirit Shackles me. Now, this is actually where a suggestion by ABR would have come into play nicely. If I had Protect on my Ferrothorn, I am knockoff Ferrothorns, mainly to pressure stuff like Zapdos on stall and to hit other Ferrothorn and stuff like that. Knockoff's just a great move in general. So I knock off his lefties. I can see that he's fully physically defensive based on that knockoff damage, actually. And his Spirit Shackle is eventually going to be able to knock me out. If I had Protect, I would have been able to waste his Spirit Shackle's PP. I think in this situation he ends up spending 10 Spirit Shackles to knock out my Ferrothorn, and Spirit Shackle has 16 PP. So with the extra recovery from protecting, and possibly protecting on Spirit Shackles, my Ferrothorn might have been able to just win the 1v1 with the Decidueye. And if my Ferrothorn does win the 1v1 with the Decidueye, as you can see, it just kind of completely wrecks Empo, because he doesn't really have any ways to beat it. The best he can do is PP stall Leech Seed and Spikes as best as he can with his Skarmory and his Pex and stuff like that. But it's definitely going to be a situation that can allow me to get the positioning I want. So yeah, this sequence is going to go on for a while. I'm just going to speed it up a little bit. Just put it on fast, I guess, and maybe skip some turns. But I knock it off. I think I showed that already. I went back a turn because I actually had a problem in between. But yeah, I just keep spamming knockoff to keep on wasting Roost and stuff like this. Force him to Roost as much as possible. It gives me as much lefties recovery as possible, because that's as many free turns as I can get. And so I want to try to get the most I can out of this Ferrothorn. So I'm just going to keep knocking off. He's just going to keep roosting whenever he gets low. And I'm just going to skip a little bit. At the end, I start to set up my spikes. I know that I can at the very least, keep this Decidueye a little bit weak, or just keep up at least one spike. But Empo should theoretically be able to keep this Decidueye fairly healthy, like around 82, and at least get rid of one spike. Or at least limit it to at most one spike, and keep his Decidueye very healthy as well. But instead here, he decides to just knock me out with Spirit Shackle. I'm not really sure why, because at worst he'd have to defog once and Roost once, and I'd get 2 extra lefties recoveries. But he'd still eventually remove my Ferrothorn, and he'd keep his Decidueye much healthier and not have these 3 spikes on the field. I'm going to take it though, because now that the Decidueye is at 60 and the spikes are up, you can't really afford to switch out. So I'm just going to Moonblast, knock him out, and he doesn't have really a good switch in. I am Specs Lele. That Moonblast is solid 40% AV Muck, and I do want to sack my Lele to this Muck anyway, because the Muck gives my Magearna a free setup opportunity. Also, you can see right now that this Lando looks like he can completely destroy Empo's team, which is why I'm completely not worried about this at the game at this point. I burn my Z move right here because I literally lose nothing by it, because Lando's gonna win this game regardless, and if he dodges my Scalebolt Habit, he's gonna have to give me a +1 special attack boost anyway. So the best he ends up being able to do is Whirlwind out my Magearna for the Keldeo. I'm just gonna Scald. Here we see the eject button on his Toxapex as he's forced out. He has to go to his Skarm and go back into his Pex. As I get a burn with a crit right here, not really gonna matter. It's gonna help to wear down Toxapex, but it doesn't matter at all. Both Magearna and Lando win. If he burns my Magearna with Scald, he might be able to like stall it out with Haze and stuff like that. But there's nothing he's going to be able to do to stall my Landorus, because I forced that damage on that Skarmory. So even if he's Toxic Skarmory, he won't be able to get it off because I just HP Ice this Karma. I don't even need Gravity, and nothing else. Dugtrio and Toxapex will just die to an E-Plate EQ. So this game is just over. I'm gonna show the Calm Mind right here as he recovers. I'm gonna T-Bolt, force him low. I think I just T-Bolt again. He knocks me out with Doug. I go Lando and he just forfeits, realizing that he just can't do anything to this Lando. And Lando just cleans off the game. So yeah, that's why I wasted my Z move on the Toxapex. Like, it was a fairly obvious scout and sack, and I could have just well, he would have rolled me, but I could have just straight won with my Magearna, I guess, if I saved that Gigavolt Havoc, but there really was no worry at that point in the game. I just wanted to get whatever forcing moves I could, and Lando was going to finish off this game anyway. Definitely the biggest turn of this game was literally turn 1, pursuing that Charizard right away and just knocking it out. I breathed a huge sigh of relief when that happened, because Charizard was looking like the thing that was going to ruin my day, and I managed to knock it out, so that was great. Anyway, but yeah, that's the SM game, and I'll be right back with Game 3. Alright guys, so for Game 3, I want to be using a fairly standard Mega Gardevoir build. It's actually a Protect Wisp Gardevoir, because that set is pretty nice at breaking a little bit more offensive teams. I don't really need Psyshock for a ton other than like Amoonguss or Venusaur if they know that I don't have Psyshock. But yeah, Protect Wisp Gardevoir are really nice and allows me to scout out Pursuit users as well, like Weavile and T-Tar. So that's why I've got it there. Empo is going to be using a Talonflame Weavile Altaria team. Quite interesting. Now, it's in this team, in my team, it's very important to try to figure out what the Jirachi, Keldeo, and Lando sets are, because either one could be Scarf, Jirachi or Lando could be Rocks, Keldeo could be Specs to help with breaking more, since Gardevoir is right now my main breaker. Latios doesn't necessarily really break that much, it's more there for defog and as a glue for like Keldeo and stuff. Rotom is just an offensive pivot to get in my breakers, so it's very understandable for him to think that I am Specs Keldeo, Scarf Jirachi, and Helmet Lando. Helmet Lando is a little bit obvious because you generally want to have some sort of thing like Iron Barbs or a Helmet or Rough Skin with Gardevoir, because it tends to be really nice for the physical attackers that pressure Gardevoir like Scizor or Metagross. So yeah, I do have Helmet Lando, but I'm actually Scarf Keldeo, and I am like a Spadef Jirachi with Healing Wish. And the reason for this Jirachi choice is because it's much better versus fairies. Calm Mind Clefable in particular can become really dangerous to Scarf Jirachi teams if the Jirachi gets paralyzed, because once the Jirachi gets paralyzed, then you're really struggling to beat that Clefable. Especially if it's bold, it's going to be a really big struggle, and it could just win. And even if that's not the case, even if it's not T-Wave, even if it's Flamethrower, first of all, you're not getting a recovery, and even if it's none of that, it's really annoying to be choice locked and having to choose between clicking U-turn or Iron Head, and I really didn't want to deal with any of that. And plus I wanted to have a solid switch into stuff like Alakazam or something of the sorts. It can at least come in once or something like that. And I wanted to have Body Slam, because Body Slam Iron Head legitimately beats Clefable, and in this case it's going to help me out a lot versus Empo's Altaria. Now, my suspicion is that the Altaria is a mono-attacking set with Refresher Heal Bell, especially since I spammed Vincoon in the preliminary weeks of Smogon Tour to qualify, and that's his only answer to Vincoon if I did bring it again. So I do think that's a mono-attacking Altaria, but I do have to be careful, because if it is EQ, then my Jirachi could be in trouble, so I definitely want to scout that out. If it is EQ, then I need to be careful about keeping my Rotom healthy so I can Wisp it. But yeah, this basically the main plan. I'm a little bit worried because if he is Spadef Talonflame, I may struggle to break his team, since he also has a Starmie, and Starmie Starmie doesn't have the biggest problem with keeping rocks off from Lando. If Lando is healthy enough to take a Scald though, or if he's just completely willing to take the Scald, then you can be a little bit more pressuring defensive Starmie. But yeah, I feel like this is going to be a tricky game, but definitely a very winnable one. Anyway, I'm going to choose to lead off with my Rotom, because the Rotom can put a lot of pressure on his team. Nothing really wants to take a Wisp, and the mono that can take a Wisp are threatened out by Rotom's stab moves. Or if he goes Altaria, that just puts him in an awkward early game position. Altaria is something you usually want to use more early on in the game. So I'm going to lead off with my Rotom as he leads Starmie. Here I click my Wisp and then I cancel it immediately, but I'm not soon enough, because if the Starmie is toxic, then it's very likely that he was going to try to Toxic my Rotom, because Wisping the Ferrothorn is a little bit obvious, and Toxic is nice on the Rotom, so Volt Switch here would have been really, really good for me for the Starmie, but I'm not unfortunately able to get that in time. Now right here, Volt Switching on the Pharaoh would just be really bad and awkward, so I'm just not going to do that. He's not going to stay in, so I'm just going to Wisp again as the Ferrothorn does indeed come in. I'm taking a little toxic damage, it's okay, but it definitely would have been better to get off that Volt Switch on the Starmie on that first turn. I'm going to Volt Switch now. This chip is staying on the Ferrothorn, even if he Leech Seeds, like, that's chip that's going to make some sort of impact because the burn is negating a lot of his recovery. So he does get off to Leech Seed. He's going to be a little bit higher. He's basically only getting lefties. I'm going to knock him off so he doesn't even have that lefties. So now at this point, he needs to be Leech Seeding to stay at the same health. So this Ferrothorn is definitely getting worn down, and that's great for my Gardevoir. My Gardevoir doesn't actually have Focus Blast. It's actually let me just explain this. It's actually HP Ground, because I noticed Empo used a ton of like Lando plus Heatran or Garchomp teams, and Gardevoir was good with that, but I didn't want to risk Focus Blast versus Heatran, and versus basically every other Steel, Wisping them is perfectly fine anyway, so that's why I'm not Focus Blast. So I want to get this in range of 2 Hyper Voices. Now here, I didn't go for the Stealth Rocks because I thought he was going to go to Starmie, but because generally once you get one spike, the second spike isn't as big, and I thought he wouldn't want to let me get rocks up for free. But he does actually just choose to spikes right there, and that's a little bit annoying for me, because as we see later, that a little bit of extra spike damage is going to matter. And also I just want to get my rocks up, and now to do that I have to Volt Switch out of this Ferrothorn, go to my Lando and set up rocks again, and this is actually going to be quite awkward because he doesn't go straight to Starmie. He does go to his Lando. He's going to Leech Seed right here, fairly obvious move to do right there, nothing really can do to stop that. I'm going to just get my Lando and say screw it, I'm getting up my rocks. He does go to his Lando because he wants to get up his rocks, and doesn't go to his Starmie, which I'm pretty happy about because I like having my rocks there while they last. And this is nice because he can't go Talonflame on my Gardevoir if he's defensive. There's just no way he can risk it. I'm going to go straight to my Gardevoir because he wants to get up his rocks. That's very obvious. I trace the Intimidate, so I'm good with that, and I can definitely put a ton of pressure on his Lando. And with that, like he doesn't want to take a Hyper Voice with the from the Gardevoir. He definitely can if he wants to, and he can U-turn out, but I don't think he'll want to at this point. And we actually see later on that, like, the whole fact that he doesn't know what my Keldeo and my Jirachi are does end up playing to my favor a lot in this situation. I'm just going to Hyper Voice. It's a clean KO on the Ferrothorn with the burn and the rocks. He's going to go to Weavile, so I'm going to scout him out with my Protect, see if he wants to click Icicle Crash, Poison Jab, Knockoff, Pursuit, and he goes for the Knockoff. Now the fact that he just went straight for the Knockoff very confidently shows me that I think he's most likely Choice Band. And the Knockoff is actually a rule on Gardevoir in my favor. The rule is, I think, max 88, like min 78 or 79 or something like that. So Gardevoir has a better chance to live this than it does to die to this. And if I switch out, I'm going to be taking more hazards damage. My switch in is Keldeo, and I don't want to take a Knockoff and 2 spikes and rocks from Keldeo. I just don't want to do that at all, because that suddenly makes Weavile a win con, a really dangerous one. So my best play at this point is to go just sack my Gardevoir, or not sack it, but I'm going for the roll right here. Remember, knocking out this Weavile is huge, because it makes my Latios a really nice threat. As you can see right now, he doesn't have any switch into his Latios, because he needs to get Mega Evolve his Altaria to do that. And I definitely want to also remove these hazards from my side of the field, because they're really wearing me down, even though he has that Talonflame, and I want to keep my rocks, so that's something I want to keep in mind. He does go for the Knockoff, and he gets the roll, though. This is really frustrating, because if he didn't get that roll, then the Weavile would have died, and it would have been really, really good for me, because he has no way to trap the Latios, and things become, like, much easier to play around. I do go to my Keldeo right here. I think I double right here into my Latios, as he does indeed switch out. I do switch out first, so that should show him that I am Scarf Keldeo, not Scarf Jirachi, but he does choose to go to his Starmie. I'm going to just defog right here, as I figure he's just going to sack Lando anyway, so I'm going to get rid of these hazards while I can, because they're definitely wearing my team down, and now that I've removed his Spiker, I definitely want to keep those off. Now, I figured here he'd sack his Lando. That basically clears his team of laying up any hazards, but with my really weakened Lando and his Starmie, I have less chances of getting up hazards versus his own team, even though that would be annoying. So I figured that he'd just be fine to sack his Lando right here. He has a Talonflame, he has a Weavile, he has a Starmie. So I figured he'd also feel perfectly fine against the Jirachi. But he didn't realize that. I think he did tell me after the game that he thought my Jirachi was scarfed for some time. So I think he wanted to save his Lando particularly for my Jirachi. We actually see later that the Talonflame is offensive, and it doesn't even have Roost because it's a natural. We'll see that later. But it is actually no, it's not. It's Acrobatics. Never mind. I'm thinking of something else. But he sacks the Starmie right there, and that's really huge. I think the Starmie was a big worry for me because breaking that Starmie literally comes down to like hitting it on the switches with U-turns and volt switches and stuff like that, and it's a really big nuisance. Now, granted, if he did sack his Lando, he has no volt switch immunity, and that could make my volt turn tactics extremely difficult for him to take down because Jirachi has U-turn, Lando has U-turn, Rotom has volt switch. So even if Keldeo isn't necessarily breaking the Starmie or Latios isn't necessarily breaking once the Altaria gets a Mega off, things are looking a little dangerous for Empo, so I've got to keep that in mind. So it wasn't like completely lost if he sacked his Lando instead of his Starmie. I think I still had a decent chance, but once his Starmie is gone, I feel like my chances are much better. Now here I'm gonna just go for a Draco Meteor because Pursuit is extremely obvious and I have a small chance to live, so why not go for it? But I think theoretically I could have switched out. I mean, actually, if he knocked off, I really didn't want to go to anything, maybe Keldeo, but him going for Pursuit is really nice, because this means I can go to my Lando, and those rocks are up. And rocks are really nice, because he's got an Altaria, a Talonflame, and a Weavile, so I definitely want those rocks up. He's going to take the opportunity to set up his own rocks, but I definitely think that my rocks are much better in this situation, and I'm willing to take the trade, because his rocks don't bother me that much. At this point, I think his biggest threat is that Talonflame and having to play well around that Altaria. Now right here, my Keldeo could have Icy Wind. I do actually have Toxic as the last move on my Keldeo, but I definitely don't want to click Toxic in this situation. It'd just be really awkward to be locked in with Toxic, as I basically have to switch, and if he does anything like staying in or going Weavile as he did, it would just be really awkward for me. And I figured that he's not going to go straight Altaria, because if I Icy Wind and Altaria on the switch, it's going to be really bad for him. So I do get the Weavile with the Scald. He's going to go Altaria. Now let me explain the sequence of plays. Like I said earlier, I'm fairly sure that this is a mono-attacking Altaria, and my Jirachi, which has Body Slam and Iron Head, should like almost all the time beat this Altaria. The only situation in which a mono-attacking Altaria would win this is if it has to Dragon Dance a ton, and it has to keep avoiding the Body Slam Paras plus Iron Head flinching it all the way down to kill range, and it has to avoid that and Dragon Dance a lot. It has to stay unmega the whole time, obviously, but then at the end, he's forced to Mega Evolve and return, and he cannot OHKO my Jirachi with the Mega Evolution return. So if I even get a Body Slam Para, a 60% chance on that last turn, while he's Mega'd and paralyzed, then my Iron Head is just going to be really good against him, because then he gains the Fairy typing and I'm doing much more damage. So I'm not particularly worried about mono-attacking Altaria. What I am worried about is if he's EQ offensive Altaria, then after +1 return can knock out my Rotom. And without my Rotom, with my Lando that doesn't have Stone Edge, that has knockoff, and my Keldeo and Jirachi, that Talonflame can just completely destroy me. So I definitely need to keep my Rotom around. But Rotom's also my only way to stop a offensive Altaria. So my game plan right here is to go Rotom. That way he's gonna Dragon Dance this turn. It's very obvious. When he Dragon Dances, if he's offensive, he has to return me. So if he does that, I'm gonna go Lando. I'm gonna give him the Intimidate, go back to Rotom. I'm gonna get off my Wisp. Then I'm gonna go to my Jirachi. I'm gonna beat this Altaria, and then my play is to Healing Wish out my Rotom. If he is a if he just straight Flare Blitzes my Jirachi and takes me out, I still can play around with recoil damage and potentially find a way out. But again, I'm not really worried about the mono-attacking Altaria. Mono-attacking Altaria in this situation is much better for me than it would be if he's offensive Altaria, and I just can't afford to go straight Jirachi here, because if he does show the EQ, then I just lose to offensive Altaria, unless I get that first paralysis. So I'm going to go to my Rotom right here. He does indeed Dragon Dance, and this is the moment of truth. If he returns right here, I'm a little bit in a tough spot, because this poison is also wearing me down. I'm going to have to take a neutral return and lots of rocks, But he goes for another Dragon Dance, and this immediately shows me that yes, this is an offensive Altaria. I just U-turn right here. Honestly, in this situation, I could have just gone Jirachi, hard Jirachi. There was no reason to U-turn and lose my Lando for nothing, because having Lando around is a little bit nice. But yeah, he just Dragon Dances again, and he Dragon Dances again. 2.5 attack, 3 times speed, but no worries, because no matter what this Altaria does, even if it's Dragon Dance to times 4, I'm going to be faster than it once the Altaria is paralyzed. And he needs to Dragon Dance to like a max before he can do anything, and he's weakened because of rocks and he hasn't roosted yet. I go for the Body Slam, I get the para, I go for 2 Iron Heads, I get the flinches on both of them, and this Altaria is gone, and I just didn't take any damage at all. He chooses to go to Lando right here, not really sure why. He just saves his sack, but it's not really too big. Maybe in case he wants to like, at this point his only win con is that Talonflame. So, I'm going to go to my Lando right here because I don't want to take an EQ, obviously. He's just going to go for the U-turn, I think. As, yeah, he just goes for the U-turn. Talonflame's going to come in. And I'm just going to knock off on the SD. Knock off removes any berry or anything of that sort and puts the damage on him, so it forces him to either roost or predict me to EQ. And he shows that there's no item right there, and he has acrobatics. If he was like Sharp Peak or something like that, then he would have been taking Brave Bird damage too, which is great. But since he's acrobatics, that means I can't necessarily just go Keld and force him to, yeah, if he was Brave Bird, I could have theoretically gone Keld, just forced him to Brave Bird, knock me out, gone Jirachi, Healing Wished on my Rotom, and just killed the Lando. But he is acrobatics, so that means, and he's probably Roost as well, so I can't just go Jirachi and Body Slam. So I basically need to remove this thing with my Rotom. So I'm going to go to my Rotom right here. I can live a +2 acrobatics. My only other play, basically if he does knock me out, if I miss my Hydro Pump, I definitely don't want to go for Volt Switch here, even though attacking me isn't obvious. Like, it's kind of obvious he's going to attack me and hope that I pump and miss, but I can't afford to go to Volt Switch on a Roost, so I just pump. If I were to miss, my only play at this point would be to sack Keldeo, go Jirachi, and Healing Wish, and he's probably forced to Roost because if he Flare Blitzes, then he dies to Recoil, and if he doesn't Flare Blitz, then my Rotom can still theoretically come in, hit a pump on the Lando, and win the game. So, yeah, so that's the plan right there. And he Acrobatics, I hit the Hydro Pump, and that's the game. So yeah, that was a series, really close series. Got really scary with that Weavile knocking out my Gardevoir, with that Altaria setting up and the Talonflame setting up. Definitely got a little dangerous. I was not happy to see Talonflame or Zardwai or Moltres all 3 games. So kind of interesting that he bought a fire flying every game. But yeah, that was the series. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.